Ready, soldier? You say?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We go. Docking station. What do we put on?
Hot fire.
Rat. 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 Rat.
What about we keep it like one?
Mean.
One.
Oh, we got the rat head.
Woohoo! We got a rat pit.
Right. Go on, Gigi. Need to buy this. Very good. Cost us 200 spy. Oh well.
What is that? That thing.
That is upright.
I want to sit on.
You me. Alright. Ready to go, soldier?
Yes.
No. Nothing. Soldier, pay attention. Hear me. If you don't listen, I will put you out to the spy.
In the back.
Yeah, out in spy.
Do that.
Prison cold.
I would do that.
Need to go ask mom. You want that?
No.
Good. Well, you need to listen. Thank you very much. Let's go.
Let's go.
And where's this?
Hang on. What is this?
Oh, we might buy that. Probably. You like it?
Nice and warm. Yeah.
I'm teasing it.
Oh, I'm gonna fall off.
But we need to sell a few things. Don't have anything to actually.
Yeah, this is all wow. That guy needs to apply.
This one, yeah.
How did he get into it?
Got it. All right. Where's the fuel anyway? Oh, there. Nail that. That too. Here we got. Motor. The buy. Oh no. Did I buy or sell? What's going on? Oh no. I sell or I buy? I buy. You move, please, soldier. You like to go out to spy, and you need to stop moving things. Yeah or no?
No.
Good. How to go spy?
Did you like and
Stop moving, please.
I'm itchy.
Buddy. There we go. We are good to go.
Good.
We are good.
Good.
Good to get out.
We good to get out.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Alright. Got artificial object. Cloud artificial object. Very good. Let's get some. Poo. I got some poo and spice, man. Not too bad. Go up here. Large asteroid. Oh. Uh-oh. Can you see? The big worm. Hey, look at that.
Hey there.
When we read it, why you need to learn to read, mate. Ready? Worm, spy worm, it make it home in the asteroid cloud, on the asteroid rock.
That it could hot. And it could.
And happily
No,
ambush
it could
us.
keep you asleep for a long time. And it could.
I
And
know.
you could never get that.
Yep. And swallow some minor bots. Also took one bite on the mothership. We spent a bit of trying to kill it. It escaped, but into asteroid cloud, now receiving a damage. Damage. Who is on the job? One big chunk. One bite to notice healing. Oh, petrol. Fuel. Outpost. Get some. Yes. Woohoo! But one fuel, 87 metals, 17 static. But hey, what else we missed? One down here. Shipwreck. Is something good? Cheap material. Alright, here we go now. Where else we miss? Miss some. Oh, this is here. Oh, you got to put this side.
What are we gonna do?
Okay. atmospheric uh, start to intensify during the mining roast, threatening to turn into full-scale megastorm.
Which one, Dom? It's scary. I jumped onto your face.
Yeah, scary storm. What should we do? Keep doing it what we're doing, or we should run it? Don't know. Say I don't know. We don't.
I don't know.
I'll make the decision. We should run away. Actually, risk. Oh, not worth it. Yeah, not worth it. We'll not do that again. Was a silly decision of Daddy. Oh, we're missing something. Wait.
People take a long time like babies.
There. I'm stuck, Jake. Oh. Yes.
I really missed.
Whee! Artificial object. What is it this time? Could it be more poo? Oh. Oh. Bomb. Alright, we run out of fuel. We need to go and back up. Uh-oh. Auto damage. No. Lost a whole bunch of stuff. But injury this mountain. Oh.
Then got it all.
Yeah, too.
They're sleeping, Daddy.
All day long, right?
Yes.
All they do.
So you where?
Hang on, Mom.
What? Base done.
I'm in the house.
Bring it to the table, please. Welcome back. Short. Calling for help. One coming. buy some. Được. What do we do, hey? Fly. Miss him. Up here. Over here. That. Oh no. Up again. Come on. Let me some view. Oh. Where's ah. Lie down here. Oh, we've been through here before. Uh-oh. I think we're done for, mate. What's going on here? Oh, more it's jelly. Naughty. Run out money. Yeah. Sales some. We made lucky. But when we run out for the cat. Same thing. Hey, buddy. Want to stop?
Another big thing. Another wall. Big star.
Up inside.
The wood.
Where?
Another
Oh, another hole. Yeah, I know.
Why those naughty ones can't bite?
Worms.
Very naughty. Naughty.
Um. Go back to where we started. Yes. I see it.
house.
How come I missed it before? No. Oh, shipwreck. I discover a damaged island ship slowly drifting by the defenses are unresponsive. Communication attempts with biotech structure suggest an advanced level of technology. What should we do? Should we try to disable the system, or should yes, success. Done.
Look, open.
Oh.
Last.
What that?
This is a citation AI and call me Edonia are in the dire need of a certain large supply ship with us 4 years ago. Take our fleet for the war effort. We haven't any contact with us, and you have us. What's it? See what's in it. 750 units of metals. You can't be serious. I don't have that much metal. Yeah. There's some fuel. You get some fuel.
Oh, somehow.
Or some help again. They not actually help. Come and sell us very expensive fuel. Because of not really helping at all. Go down to the planet. Ooh, that X. We discover and contact with a local civilization. The Obians seem highly intelligent despite using the little technology. After having a long chat with our AI, they propose a try. They want a battery with a star fuse, so they could overcharge themselves for pleasure. They promise an ancient of intact tech in return. No worries, you can have it. Go nuts. They go nuts.
Donut.
Oh, what's this? That not ancient. That like rubbish tech. Serious? Not serious. Okay again. We go. Go. We go. Scrub everything. Scrub everything. Oh no! Oh no! Naughty squids! Yep. Let's buy you from. Happy now?
Hooray.
Alright, no idea where to go. Oh, what's this? Carol supply. Protein inside. Oh. Whoa! Lot of organics in food. Apple. Banana. Kiwi fruit. Which we could miss some. I'm lost, mate. I don't know where to go now. Idea? Yeah, where? What? Arrow? Alright, let's go Arrow. Let's hope that you're correct. Got here. Oh no! Again. Oh, what do we got now? Naughty octopus. You listen. One battle station. What? There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Can I go here? Kill me. Hey, what's up? That's you. That's you. Let's see how we go.
I want mouse.
Yeah, everything in slow motion. Oh, look at this, like big. I got a better plan. I'm gonna launch.
No, there's an octopus. Go back up.
Yeah.
And there's a rat.
Yeah, there's a rat. Silly little rat.
And what are we gonna do?
We're gonna give them what they want. Bullets. Think that what they want. What do you reckon? Ở đây. Shooting us! Ah! In position, people! Now! Don't have time to lose! Oh, bam! Right in the face. That explosion. Uh-oh, you run.
I'm going to shoot. I'm going to.
Okay. One.
More bullet.
Yeah, look at that.
In slow motion.
On fire, mate.
No, that bullet is slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
Our bullet is far. They all got damage. You can do it, Daddy.
Yeah. They're on fire, look at it. Uh-oh. I think they're coming into the ship. Hey. Oh, here they are. No. Hey. Oh, yeah. Sarah Occam. The rats. I ate rats.
What?
Ah, it's rats. How many of them? Oh no! Get us! Everything offline. Put this on fire. A bullet. Come on, come on, come on. Yeah! Like that. Uh oh, 2 bullets coming. What do we do?
We got to wax, Daddy.
Can't lose this, they're gonna enslave us all. Oh
We got to
no.
wax.
Rats on our ship. Silly rats.
Going to the lava.
On offline. Online. That's sleep. Oh, this guy run. Oh no, explosion! No! No! They got,
Let's get the yellow one.
they got us.
Let's get the yellow one.
What yellow?
Yellow. Yellow one. Yellow one. Yellow one.
Oh,
The yellow one.
well, let's go outside, mate. It was sunny before. We lost in spy and then that naughty rat come get us. The naughty.
Let's get the yellow one.
Yellow spaceship. This one.
Yes, that one.
Um,
Oh. That.
this one.
Yes. Yes, that one.
Rat's one.
That's the one we should get the black one.
What's one name?
Um. Oh. I want Adwa.
Atlas.
I want Adwa.
Um.
I want all the black.
I wanna sleep. Yes.
Let's take that one.
Atlas.
No, I will do that. I will do that one.
Well, we got to ask mommy. Mommy made it our help and keep. Hang on, hang on. What this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think this one very good.
I think what it is. Let's try again, right? Or let's do the yellow. Do the yellow one.
Yellow not good.
What about that one? Not
I ready?
good. Okay, hello. I'm opening dirty. Tick or two, tick or tea, away, Tino poo, Tino dee, Hillary, poopy. Tino two, Hilla poo. Are you waiting it? Are you waiting it? Are you waiting
Yeah,
it?
I'm reading it. I think the rats are better.
Yeah. Daddy. I think we're going. Say goodbye. Not enough.
We're gonna stop enough to living in.
I want you to wait it. Wait it.
Excuse me.
Wait it.
Have enough.
I've got 2 eyes. I can give you it. How many eyes you got?
They're used to doing that. Needles on.
Cream. Don't know what.
Don't copy us. We do. Don't touch it up, but we do.
Heat up it.
Don't copy it. Do. Don't copy it.
Yep.
Don't copy it. Do.
Have I got?
I want that one. Pumpkin hammer. I want pumpkin.
Pumpkin hammer, more like the flying garden inside. Not very good. When other pirates gonna attack, if you can pumpkin. Right. And what's the next one? Rats.
Oh, well, let's take the black one. Take the black one. Take the Oh, I can't see.
This one. Pretty.
I want to it. So it. I want to it.
That is an antique by you exploration.
I
10
want
from
to
museum.
it. Want to it. Eat. Do it. Want to it. Pretty.
I'm thinking, feel me.
This is just boring, not flying.
Well, I got this ends. And you need to hop down and go get it. Yeah?
What? Yeah. What? Yeah.
Shower.
What?
Oh, honey, because it's a bit cold.
in your chair. Yeah, I'm gonna share.
The hospital. Research.
Alright, let's try this one, buddy.
Try that one.
Careful, please.
Yeah.
Me.
Yep. Want me to take Teddy for you and Charlotte? Do you want? Alright.
So we'll take those main. Those.
How about we go this one and that's it. There you go. One garden. Ready? Here we go. We are a long way to home. Let's start our journey.
That got.
Right, so where? One, come here. Okay. Attention! Look, everyone need to attention. Are you see? Okay, hey. Excuse me. Actually, I make a mistake. Oh, what's going on? Right, we need a lap.
Mama. Mama. You see, Mama.
Decoy weapon. Radical.
Let's go to Percy, what are you doing? Eat it.
Alright, let's go.
Oh, Percy, what's that?
Cut that. Need to go to the doctor and cut it out.
No.
No. I didn't.
It's to me what I thought. How would it?
See? Hey, excuse me. Don't need you to do that. Start the ship now. You want? Come to me, attention. Yep. What doing in here?
Isn't he?
Excuse me.
What's he?
Hey buddy, don't do that please.
Hey, buddy. Please.
Alright, you want to go out to spy then?
Oh.
Sound like you want to go spy. But then you need to listen please. Look at the ship. Like it? Me too. Alright, let's see who do what. Book.
All of the gas. Big all of the. Those are all of the gas.
Alright. Don't check me.
Those are all of the
Jacob.
gas.
I got CC, I got
No,
you.
I want to count.
I know, I can hear you. Would you like the ship about to go? What would you like to do? Kill me? No what please? Very nice. Why do I hide a whole bunch of scientists?
What's this?
Many cyan in the hood. You need that. Who now?
Kitten, kitten, yeah.
What is robot? This is so confusing. Too many scientists. One can. Bad. Really bad. It cook. What would you like? What would you like? What would you like? What would you like?
You finished your bikini. It's all bikini. But I mean, it's iPad. Oh, Bobby, teach it right. Microphone. This is laptop. This and that.
Excuse me. Don't do that, please.
What is that? Read it. Read it, sister. I said read it.
I don't think so. You can read it. How about we go out? Sunshine. Sunshine, sunshine is here.
Sunny, sunny, sunny. Sunny with a mini moon. Sunny, no.
Oh, look! New planets.
It's bad. It's bad. Something's,
Oh, baby, baby.
something's coming up.
Is it? Yeah. There's a planet. Hello, planet. Possible dangers. 10 ropes below the surface. Boom! Rocket ship, yes. Apart from the automated technology, the planet seemed completely gone. 99% of life forms seem to have gone due to the chemical warfare. The rest are mostly microorganisms or moss. Ah no, everyone gone.
What are those? What are those?
They are insect. Let's go to gas giants.
Gas giant? What's gas giant?
Planet like big gas giant.
Are we gonna get that?
Hi there. Sissy said. Go. All right, excuse me. Gotta go.